Hey everyone, I'm Levi Polzin at Levi Warner on Instagram, and today I'm going to go through a bunch of books, basically kind of outside reference and just kind of stuff that I am always taking in outside of tattooing. So we're not going to see any tattoo here books today, not even stuff that I necessarily pull from for tattoo reference, but just things I'm inspired by that like maybe I even just kind of try and create a vibe and a feel. All right, let's get into it. So yeah, like I said, this is going to be a video on just some books that I have laying around. I just pulled kind of a selection of a couple of things that I more or less I've always just been inspired by. There are artists and creators and books and stuff that I've literally had. I don't know when this one came out, this Barry McGee book, but I have literally trucked it around with me in so many apartments. Looks like this came out in like 2002. So I've literally trucked this around for almost 20 years in different apartments and houses and stuff. Maybe that's a good one to start with. I'm going to move these over. Here we go. And we'll just kind of get into this one to begin with. We're not going to go all the way through. I'm just going to kind of, but Barry McGee is a graffiti artist. I used to do graffiti in the 90s and early 2000s. And he was always somebody I really looked up to. This isn't necessarily like, it's kind of like a weird like fanzine thing of his work, photography, stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff that I'm kind of going to show you is all about kind of like a creative energy, a vibe that I'm always trying to like kind of keep around myself to keep inspired, or when I feel like I'm in a slump. It's something that I can kind of refer to, and it just gets me there. It gets me to that place of inspiration. Another one, there's gonna be a good selection of comic books in here, but this is one that I really, really love. Paul Pope's 100%. It's basically just kind of like a crime story set in like kind of like a weird post-apocalyptic future of sorts, and there's just like drugs and sex and weird psychedelic elements that I feel like even if you don't see that stuff in my tattoos necessarily, maybe you can see it's like an energy or a vibe that I'm trying to create. I don't know. And maybe it's something eventually, I'll look at a lot of this stuff that it'll be something that maybe I will pull in. I don't know. But yeah. Here's another artist. I'm going to kind of probably flip back and forth between like fine artists and then comic books. Francis Bacon is another one that I really am inspired by. You'll probably note that a lot of this stuff is kind of like darker imagery of sorts. I don't know. I think that kind of just harkens back to my 16-year-old kid sitting in my room by myself listening to The Cure and drawing like comic books and with The Cure and the movie The Crow on at the same time. Another comic book here, Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. David Mazzucchelli is the artist on this one, year one. If you've never really read any Batman or anything, this is probably, in my opinion, the best place to start. David Mazzucchelli, he doesn't do comic books anymore. He actually teaches illustration at the Rhode Island School of Art and Design now. I've had some friends who were lucky enough to be able to study underneath him, and I just been eternally jealous of that. I would have loved to. Here's a cool one, Coffin of the Chimera by Takato Yamamoto. I have a couple books of his. Yeah, it's just something I didn't even really realize I had a signed copy too. their work is just like really ethereal. Lots of kind of tropes that you will see in manga and anime, but yet really dark. It's like a lot of play with like meat and bodies and light and dark. Um, a lot of play with like sexuality and gender. I like a lot of this really stark black and gray or just black pen work. It reminds me of a Victorian artist, maybe not Victorian, probably early Art Nouveau. I'm forgetting their name at the moment, but I know that they're pulling from a lot of that kind of stuff. Here's just references to early prints. Yeah, so cool stuff there. Another comic book here, another Frank Miller. I love a lot of Frank Miller stories. I think he was really inspired. Now, at this time, I think he was really trying to show his love for manga. His Ronin story is a really cool, like, future manga. It's like somewhere between Seventh Samurai and Blade Runner. But a lot of the art, I feel like, is somewhat inspired from manga, but then somewhat inspired from European comics, like Mobius and whatnot, which I do have here and I will show, not quite next, but coming up probably the next comic we show. A lot of these color palettes really remind me of like Mobius and stuff. And so I feel like he's pulling from both of those. Next artist up is Lee Bonteku. She's a sculptor who I fell in love with in probably the, I don't know, late 90s. I think I found her work. I think I went to Boston to go look at a college in the 90s, and I saw one of her sculptures. Let's see if we can find one of these bigger kind of whole eyeball sculptures, like one of these, and it just blew my fucking mind as a young adult, as a teenager. There was like a depth and a darkness. It's all made out of canvas and wrought iron and then like soot, and she like kind of shades a lot of this stuff with soot. She had really cool drawings too. But I love the tactile nature and then aspect of it that it seemed like anybody could kind of make it, but yet it was so expertly and beautifully done. I don't know if I'll zoom in a little bit on this, but God, I love that sculpture. It's kind of like a spaceship, but like a real ship, but yet like a molecule or something. It just speaks to so much on so many levels to me. But yeah, her work still to this day is very inspiring to me. Just even like how I apply that to like flow and depth and darkness on of backgrounds and stuff. Like I said, another comic book here. This one is Mobius, written by Jodorowsky, who, if you don't know, has done a lot of amazing comic books, but he did some really cool surreal movies in the 70s, namely High Mountain, and there's another one that I'm forgetting the name of. And please, if you remember, put it in the comments. Any Jodorowsky film, I can highly recommend. All that stuff has been hugely influential to me. Even if you don't see it, like I said, like a lot of this stuff, like I don't think you're ever going to see a direct inspiration, like, oh, I see where he pulls from that and puts it in his work. But there's something about this stuff where it's more a mood that I'm always trying to create for myself. Like I said, like I'm always trying to harken back to like that base creative nature I feel like I had when I was a kid. When I was alone in my room just making art for myself. I feel like as we get to be adults, we're just like always questioning ourselves. We're always letting the outside world kind of have more influence on us, and we're not always coming from a place of like pure joy of creating art, um, just to create. And I definitely feel that as being a person who literally creates and has to create for their livelihood. Um, and because of that, sometimes it feels, I don't know, like I get in these modes of feeling static with my art or something like that. So yeah, like I'll just put on music and pick up some books and stuff like that. They just bring me back to that state of mind as being a kid, where I could create freely and I didn't have any stipulations of what something had to be, what my art had to be, what the outside world thought my art had to be. Probably one of my first and biggest art influences ever was Basquiat. I don't know, he just literally has, I mean, this right here, this painting, I think could sum up pretty much everything I'm trying to talk about in this video. So to me, something like this reflects so much in what I try to do with my own work very directly. I can see what I try and do in my work, if I was allowed to just do whatever I wanted to. Now, there's always, a third party in there, because there's what is maybe technically available to do on any person's skin, or what the viewer, or the client wants to get as a tattoo. But what I'm always trying to create is these moods and these energies of kind of this dramaticness. And that's what, I mean, literally all this stuff that I'm showing you, but I feel like this painting right here sums it up exactly. There's a dramaticness and a simplicity in just one color, and just this subtle shape of the face, a skull here that brings a mood and an energy to it. There's life, but yet dark and sadness in it. I don't know. Like if I could create a bodysuit and it would still be traditional Japanese, that is always what I'm trying to create. There's some semblance of how this makes me feel, of what I'm trying to convey in tattooing. And so, yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm always telling people, and I always tell younger artists, look all around at art. Don't be just relegated to tattoo art or tattoo photographs or stuff like that. I feel like it's stifling to some degree. I feel like you end up not really being able to convey a lot of your true elements of what will inevitably make your art. I had a couple other books, but I really feel like I should probably end on that Basquiat thing. He just really brings home everything I feel like I try and create with my own art. So yeah, just something to think about. I wanted to kind of I've been in a weird art funk myself lately, and I know as artists we kind of get into that point, and we can get to those places that feel like we're never going to create anything good again. But I think branching out and getting and showing different stuff, we're always going to find our true selves. Go listen to the music that really brings you to that place of kind of this, ethereal place of mind and spirit kind of together, and not thinking about any exterior thing. Get off Instagram, put your phone in a different room. And I know I say that as a person who's literally making you video content to watch, but like, put your fucking phone in a different room, shut it off, and just create something just to create it. Even if it's good or bad, don't even worry about that. Andy Warhol had a really good comment one time, or quote that I had read, where he said, just keep making art, make art every day, make it. And don't worry about it's good or bad. If it's good or bad or not, leave that up to the masses. They can decide if it's good or bad, and you just keep making art. And I think that's maybe the biggest form of inspiration I try and take with me every day, when I'm making art. Anyways, that's all I got. Little short one. Thanks, y'all.